We have some breaking news for you now. Fox News can now project that Texas Senator Ted Cruz has won Iowa's Republican presidential caucuses, beating New York businessman Donald Trump, who finishes second, and Florida Senator Marco Rubio, who finishes a close third. Based on election returns from across the state, Fox can also project that retired neurosurgeon Ben Carson finishes a distant fourth, and Kentucky Senator Rand Paul comes in fifth.
This is what Senator Ted Cruz had been working for. He put a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort into Iowa. You're looking at Cruz headquarters right now, live in Des Moines, and it doesn't look like they've gotten word. I'm not sure.
They clearly have not yet gotten the news, but we still have our panel here, and this is significant. I mean, this is a huge win for Ted Cruz. He needed to win this state, and people were predicting his demise in this race if he did not, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a huge win for Ted Cruz. His team had confidence all along that their organization would ultimately lead them to prevail. They had done considerable work on analytics. They had a very sophisticated get-out-the-vote operation. They had projections that some reporters were even mocking, myself included, when they were talking about how many, they knew there were 9,131 voters who were deciding between Cruz and Rubio, and they could reach out and influence those voters as they headed to the caucus. Who knows if they were actually that good, but they were clearly very good, and this is a big win for Ted Cruz.
Britt, Ted Cruz put it all on Iowa.
He did.
Now what happens coming out of Iowa as you go to a perhaps unfriendly place in New Hampshire?
Well, he's been coming up a bit in New Hampshire. Right? He's, what, 12, 13%, which, is higher than he had been. And he'll get an enormous burst of publicity, and he'll come in there as the Iowa winner. And New Hampshire has a habit of being somewhat disrespectful to Iowa winners, but that doesn't mean that will happen this time. I think he deserves credit for running a very disciplined campaign, well organized here, where organization is so important. And one more thing, he made a very gutsy call on this ethanol mandate, this ethanol subsidy.
He's a candidate who ran against the sitting six-time governor,
right,
who said you cannot elect Ted Cruz.
Right. And he, it's tempting in a situation like that to trim your sails, but he didn't really do that, and he deserves, in my book, a lot of credit for doing that. He's a big winner here. I think Rubio's a winner. It's going to be very interesting to see how Donald Trump and Donald Trump supporters will react to the fact that he's now been beaten, not overwhelmingly, but certainly convincingly, it seems. The aura of invincibility, which seemed to surround him everywhere he went, may now be stripped away, and it'll be interesting to see how he responds and how the voters respond.
On that same point, Kirsten, the surprise from Rubio making this as competitive as it was for second place, right on Donald Trump's heels, and looking forward to New Hampshire now, which is a more moderate state, I guess, in the voting as the demo goes. Just looking at the exit polling here, the entrance polling here, the moderate voters in Iowa, they went 35% for Trump, 9% for Cruz, 26% for Marco Rubio. So it was about, what, a 9-point difference between Trump and Rubio when it came to moderate voters.
Right, yeah. Well, and that's obviously going to benefit Rubio much more when we move on to the next state. And I do want to give Ted Cruz his due here, because he has obviously been battered. First of all, let's remember Donald Trump has really gone after him, and it's interesting to see that a lot of these attacks really didn't work. The Canadian attack and, nobody likes him attack, and he's really been hammered, and he's run a really good campaign.
Not only that, but he showed up at the GOP debate that Fox News hosted,
exactly.
and by some accounts, he took a beating. The Des Moines Register headline the next day was not good for him, but he stood there and he argued his points.
Exactly. And I think, and to that point, we've talked a little bit about the fact that Trump missed an opportunity to make his closing arguments. It looks like he's paying a price for it here. But most of all, I think that, look, we have a record evangelical vote turnout here as well with Cruz, and I think he can take credit for that, and he's, winning 33% of them.
Steve,
and that's a great accomplishment.
I've asked it a couple times, but can we definitively say that not going to the debate hurt Trump? A strategic error that close?
I mean, I don't think you can point, to that and make a definitive conclusion, but all of the data that we have about the decision, about the timing of the swing of support to Marco Rubio, Donald Trump didn't pick up many of the late deciders at all at a time when people were making their decisions in this last several days. So yeah, I think it's fair to conclude that. I don't think you can necessarily make a one-to-one causal argument, but it certainly looks like that.
It takes groundwork, Britt. It takes organization in Iowa. They respect their first-in-the-nation status, and they take it seriously.
And they do indeed, Brett. And I think, this is going to engender a discussion now among political junkies like ourselves about which is more important, enthusiasm or organization. Now, I'm not saying that Cruz didn't have enthusiasm. His supporters, from what I can tell from what I hear from them, are quite enthusiastic about him. But certainly,
on Twitter.
but no, right, that's right. But certainly no. But when the one thing we can all say about Donald Trump is that his supporters are extremely enthusiastic, and it wasn't enough for him to carry the day out here. Now, he didn't, he never really organized the state in the way that you classically have to do, and he got beat. So that'll be a discussion worth having.